For it to be legally classified as a hate crime, we focus on what is in the state of mind of the actor. What was his intent? Was it motivated by bias, animus? Is it a criminal act of bigotry? Sometimes this is hard to prove, and sometimes it's actually shockingly easy to prove. So in a case like this, where someone is singled out because she's wearing a hijab, or in some of the other cases that you mentioned, where it is clear that the victim has been selected in a racially discriminatory manner, it's actually, as I say, shockingly easy to prove what the motivation was. And that's what causes the enhanced harm of these crimes, and that's why they're punished differently.
And when does it conflict with a person's right to free speech? When is it just free speech, and when is it a hate crime? I mean, how do you strike that balance?
I think it's a great question. I think when the speech ends and the act begins is where we have the case of a hate crime. So, for example, there's a Supreme Court case that perfectly captures this involving the cross-burning statute in Virginia. If the Ku Klux Klan is burning a cross at one of their rallies, that may express views that I certainly find abhorrent, but that's protected free speech. When someone burns the cross on the lawn of an African-American family to terrorize them, that's crossed over and that becomes punishable. So again, ask what's in the mind of the actor. Is the actor trying to express something, even if it's hateful views, or is the actor trying to inflict focused harm on an individual? So again, coming back to what happened on that train in Portland, I think there's no question, but that Christian was not expressing views alone, which he's free to do, but was actually articulating in a way that would inflict harm, threat, and terror on two individual victims. Federal hate crime cases, like any federal civil rights case, does require the approval, if not of the Attorney General, then of the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. So that does require approval from Maine Department of Justice. But I'd go even beyond that. I think we really are talking about a major symbolic aspect when our leaders speak or don't speak on these issues. Harris was talking about earlier about what the feeling is in Portland when there's an outpouring of support. And similarly, when that support is seen not to be there, it has the opposite effect. So I think it is critically important that we do all the things he was talking about of reaching out and of educating. But from the point of view of law enforcement, there is both an important role for punishing criminals, but for expressing the values of the society through the criminal law. Now, it is true that virtually every state has a hate crime law at this point, and many states are particularly good at enforcing those laws. And where that happens, there is less of a need for federal law enforcement. That said, it is extremely important that the federal government, as part of its commitment to enforcing all the laws and the equal protection of the laws, makes very strong statements and clear statements that this kind of behavior is unacceptable, and I'd go further, is un-American in the deepest sense of what it means to be an American.
When you look at the public discourse in America right now, it's very partisan, it's very tribal almost. I mean, how difficult is it going to be to navigate through all of that?
You raise a very important point. I think it is very difficult, and that's why it's particularly important to see the pushback to events like this. I actually come out of this event very heartened by seeing not just the reaction in Portland, but the national and indeed international reaction. But I think it does demonstrate how important that is going to be. Increasingly, people get their news from the same sources as the other people with whom they agree. People look at different facts and actually have different bodies of facts they're looking at, and we are going to have to, as a society, find ways to get past that. To a large extent, I think our leaders have an important role to play in that, but all of us as leaders in civil society and NGOs have an important role to play in that.